Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Fantastic Interviews, where I bring you fantastic people with fantastic stories. The gentleman you're looking at is Randy Macknarames, and he had a fantastic show, huge audience, and he's very knowledgeable on government officials. As you know, today I released a video on our loss of freedom of speech, and Randy and I had a discussion earlier, and he's going to expound on it like nobody else. Randy, take it away.
Loss of freedom of speech. Look, it's not just a loss of freedom of speech. Everybody looks at the Bill of Rights as listing our rights, our freedoms. That's not what it does. The Bill of Rights basically says that these are freedoms that we're telling the government, that we're actually listing out, that the government cannot do. They cannot do anything on these things. These are hardcore listed rights. But our rights are not granted by the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. Our founding fathers basically said that we could do anything we want. We are free men. We are kings of our own castles. We are the masters of our government. They said, you are free to do whatever you want as long as you create no victim. Now, creating a victim was a very specific thing. I had to hurt a specific individual or his property. Jefferson expounded upon it best when he said, I care not if a man worships one God or 1,000. It breaks not my leg nor harms my fields. Basically, if you don't hurt me and you don't hurt my property, you can do whatever the hell you want. Our founding fathers said that there was no such thing as a victimless crime. See, our founding fathers and all those early colonists, we were ruled by the British, and we had 10,000 victimless crimes. They were making up new laws every day and creating more and more criminals every day with more and more laws. Does that sound familiar? Now, when we speak about laws, Congress, let's take Congress, because Congress is the only branch of government, or the legislature, for states, but Congress for the federal government is the only branch of the government that can make law. The president cannot make law. Those little executive orders that all these presidents like to sign, those are not laws. Executive orders specifically state these are orders for the executive branch of government, basically orders and memos from the president down to the people that are within the executive branch of government. It does not mean you and me. He cannot outlaw anything. He cannot ban anything. He cannot make law with executive orders. Congress is the only one that can make law. But what laws can Congress make? Well, to answer that question, we look to Article 1, Section 8. The only authority, the only powers that Congress were given were listed there. That also means that those are the only areas that they can make law on. The federal government did not tell the states what to do. The states told the feds what to do. In fact, we had an upside-down pyramid of power. We, the people, had all power. All power of the government was derived from the will of the consent. The only power the government had is that which we, the people, gave it, which means we have all the power. Now, as a republic, our government is set with a specific duty. That duty is outlined perfectly in the Declaration of Independence, where it said the only duty of government is to protect the individual freedoms and liberties of the individual, not for the greater good, the general welfare, all those things that they like to do. They said the only job of the government, the only duty of the government, the only power of the government was to protect the rights and liberties, or the individual rights and liberties of each person. That's it. When you look at the Constitution in Article 1, Section 8, most of those powers have nothing to do with states or anything like that. It says things like coin and print, to regulate money. Well, last time I checked, the government doesn't regulate money. The Federal Reserve does, and the Federal Reserve is neither federal nor a reserve. It's a private corporation. It's a private banking corporation. Funny thing about the Federal Reserve. Our founding fathers fought. Part of the reason for the Civil War was to fight against the Federal Reserve. Basically because the Federal Reserve created a state of indentured servitude. Remember that whole taxation without representation? Kings had to tax more because of Federal Reserves or central banks were loaning them money, and the collateral for that money was mine and yours wages. You tax the people to pay us back. We fought a revolution to get away from this. Funny thing though, Hamilton, one of our founding fathers, he was married into the Rothschild family. And right after the Revolutionary War, the very first thing he did was create a central bank. But we, in this country, already understood the central bank. We fought a revolution to get away from it. Well, one of the reasons we fought it was to get away from it. So we couldn't call it a central bank, a Federal Reserve, or, a central bank or anything like that. So we called it the Bank of the Americas. It was a central bank owned by the Rothschilds and all those people. Hamilton said that the American people were too stupid to think for themselves and needed to be told what to think by a new aristocracy in this new world. See, Hamilton didn't want to fight a revolution to get rid of the aristocracy of monarchy. He wanted to fight a revolution so he could be part of the new aristocracy, the new monarchy. And in fact, when Benjamin Franklin came out of Liberty Hall, he was asked by a lady in the crowd, what do we have, a monarchy or a republic? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. Now the question was telling. What did you create, a monarchy or a republic? Because there was a lot of people who wanted the monarchy, just our own monarchy. A new king to tell us what we could do. And new aristocracy, new lords and nobles to tell us what to do. Just like Franklin or Hamilton said. But the other part of it was telling, a republic, if you can keep it. See, everybody thinks that this Constitution is this magical document that gets up and defends itself with flamethrowers and swords and grenades and axes and guns and tanks. Bush, when he said the Constitution is just a goddamn piece of paper, was partly right. It is just a piece of paper. It lays down the rule of the law, the rule of law of the land, but it's just a piece of paper. It is only protected by we the people. We stopped protecting it a long time ago. In fact, our founding fathers, the ink wasn't even dry on the Constitution before they started violating it. For instance, my favorite founding father of all, Thomas Jefferson. Amazing man. Probably one of the greatest philosophical thinkers ever. I put him up there with Cato. I put him up there with Locke. Amazing man. He violated the Constitution twice. Did he violate it for good reasons? Yes. Had to do the Louisiana Purchase. He violated the Constitution. He was given no authority to do it. He did it anyways. Created an education system. Had no authority to do it, but he did it anyways. He has no power of the purse. That's Congress's authority. Only Congress can approve money, can give money. He took the money, and he did what he wanted with it. He violated the Constitution. Benjamin Franklin tried creating hereditary positions within the government for his progeny. Lifelong positions of power within the government. These are the guys who wrote the damn thing. These are the guys who voted and argued it. Argued it in the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers. Funny thing about the Federalist Papers, if you look at what the Federalists said we need a big, massive government with total control. Absolute control. Well, when we look back at history, what do big governments that tell the people what to do become? Those are tyrannical systems. We broke ours down to the people, and then from the people to the town, from the town to the county, from the county to the state, from the state to the feds. That was the order of telling. We, the people, told the town what to do, the town told the county what to do, the county told the state what to do, the state told the feds what to do. Now it's reversed. Somehow the feds are taking power and they tell the states what to do, the states tell the counties what to do, the counties tell the towns what to do, and the towns tell us what to do, and the county tells us what to do, and the state tells us what to do, and the federal government tells us what to do. Everybody tells us what to do, and we don't tell anybody anything anymore. Yet when you look at the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, it says, we the people have the right to alter or abolish. It says that we are in charge. It even goes so far as to say that we the people, it is not only our right but our duty to alter or abolish any government which becomes inimical to our liberty and freedom, and to institute new government to safeguard our liberties. Now what does that mean, alter or abolish? That means to change or completely get rid of. Now they didn't put a limitation down. You could only abolish by these means. It basically says, by any means necessary, it says you have the right to overthrow your government. If your government becomes tyrannical, because it says, long will people endure the slings and arrow of injustices. Now, we know that we were given the authority and the power to overthrow our government because that's how our founding fathers created this country. They overthrew a government. So what, all of a sudden, these guys who fear big government, who talk about evils of tyranny, now all of a sudden say, well, we had the power, but you people now, with these new governments, you don't have the power. That's not what they said. The Constitution even says we can overthrow our government. So it says we can overthrow our government in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
What happened to our freedom of speech, Joe?
Well, that's where we go to now. So over the years, if our founding fathers themselves were violating the Constitution from the ink wasn't even dry, from the moment that it was penned, how much do you think every politician has violated that Constitution over every single year since that document was created? I had a friend of mine, his name was retired Colonel Joseph P. Martino.
What happens?
All right, so laws of freedom of speech. I had a friend of mine named Joseph P. Martino. He was a professor of just war doctrine. He was also the colonel that was in charge every time our troops were sent somewhere. It was his job to create the counterinsurgency plans for all of our government, or for all branches of our military. He wrote a book called Resistance to Tyranny, which was a primer for overthrowing tyrannical governments. In that book, which was not something new, but in that book he said that the government steals your liberty a salami slice at a time, meaning they take it in such imperceptible amounts that you don't even realize you're losing freedom. So now when you asked about, to circle back about the original question, laws of freedom of speech, our right to free speech. Our right to free speech is besides the right to life, our right to free speech is our most important. How do you and I express ideas, share ideas, discuss government, overthrowing government, talk about overthrowing government, if we don't have the right to free speech? How do we share ideas? We are free in our own thoughts. Right. Now, why don't we have it? So let's take a look at it. The Constitution clearly states that Congress can make no law violating my right to free speech. Now, the Constitution itself said there is only one form of speech which is outlawed, and that was slander, because slander creates a victim. It hurts a person. It hurts their livelihood, their reputation, which means loss of income, loss of wages, loss of opportunity. It hurts people. It's lies. That was the only form of speech that was actually outlawed and made a crime in the Constitution. Other than that, everything was a go. But we got the Supreme Court now who says, well, not all free speech is protected. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can say whatever the hell you want. Our founding fathers said that the freedom of speech was not to protect popular speech. It was to protect the most deplorable speech. So let's give an example. Racism is pretty deplorable, wouldn't we say? Yet,
you can't say the N-word.
White supremacists have the right to say whatever they want. They have the right to their beliefs and their opinions. How do you legislate a man's beliefs? And how do you legislate his right to speak those beliefs? But it's not just white supremacists, it's black supremacists. There's brown supremacists, Asian supremacists, native supremacists, Aboriginal supremacists. There are supremacists of every race, color, creed in the world. There is no such thing as any law which violates your right to say, speak, think, write, produce anything which presents ideas. Congress has no authority. If we have the right to talk about overthrowing our government by any means necessary, including violent acts, including rebellion and revolution, you don't think I have the right to say black people are inferior, or white people are inferior, or brown people are inferior, or whatever? I can say whatever the hell I want. If I can take it to such an extreme that I can talk about killing politicians who have become tyrants and who have violated the Constitution and our liberties, you don't think I can talk about anything I want? Come on now, please. Our founding fathers had to talk about overthrowing government. You're not going to get up and, one man's going to get up and say, I'm going to go overthrow the government. People had to talk about it. They had to share ideas. They had to express ideas. They had to print ideas. And slowly over time, that's how we've lost our freedom of speech. Because we were taught that they could, and we believed them because they stopped teaching the Constitution. So that's how we've lost freedom of speech, and that's how we've lost all of our rights. All of our rights are gone. We have no rights. We now have privileges. And when you have privileges, you're not free.
Overpopulated cities around the world have caused people to become a greedy, selfish, and litigious society. Would you like to be happier, live longer, never be forgotten, and help make the world a kinder, more civil place? It's actually easier than you think. Every day you're asked, how are you? Instead of saying good, say I am fantastic. It will make you look better, feel great, and reduce your stress. Making the world a better place starts with each person. Please join the Be Fantastic movement today. What you want to be, you can be. Be fantastic.